Hello everyone, I'm Riley Parks, the designer of Woodcutting Level, my 9-card 2-player Nano game where you both play as woodcutters aiming to collect the most wood. It is a roll in advance dice and card game where you try to sabotage your opponent while also advancing and collecting the most cards and victory points. In this little instructional video, I'm going to be running you through each section of my double-sided single-page rulebook and explaining the game a little bit more in depth based off of those rules. So to start with, we have our player skill guides. We have 2 unique ones to choose from. We have 3 tier dice, a 1 related to the yew and the magic, a 2 related to the willow and maple, and a 3 related to the evergreen and oak. And that is universal for both skill guides. On our new updated cards, you might notice we do have the word tier put on there just to help simplify that a little bit more. To set them up, we'll go ahead and put a die pointed at a 1 there, the 2 on the 2, and the 3 on the 3, and you would do the same for that next player. We'll then decide who the first player is and who gets to become the axe wielder. It is the player that most recently climbed a tree. Of course, if neither of you have climbed trees in a very long time, you can always find another tree or plant related activity to toss in there. To lay out our cards, you would lay them out in 3 separate columns by the tiers. So you would have the yew and magic tier column, the willow and maple tier column, and the oak and evergreen tier column. Now then, in the new updated cards that I am also still lacking for this, we do have the point values added to each card to make it a little easier to throw them out on the table. So the oak and the evergreen will both have their 2 points up in the corner. The willow and maple will both have their 3 points, and the magic and yew will both have the 5 points. That way you know the 5s are together, the 3s are together, and the 2s are together. Alright, so now that we're all set up, the axe wielder will say it's this card here. We'll take the 2 remaining die and give them a roll. Of course, I'd usually recommend not rolling on the cards themselves, but it's always good to utilize the space that you have. So as you can see, we rolled a 3 and a 1. We now get to select which die we want and raise the tier die associated with it. So for my 1, I could raise my oak and evergreen tier up to a 4, or with that 3, I could raise my magic up to a 2. Of course, it's a little bit of a longer haul, but they are worth a lot more points. The other thing to remember is that whichever die I don't choose goes to my opponent. So if I choose a 3 and raise that, they get to raise their evergreen and oak tier, their 1, up to a 4. So they're a lot closer to getting the first tree card. So, for the sake of trying to go against them a little bit and further myself, I'm going to choose the 1. Let's get this taken up. We'll take that up to a 4. Give that 3 to my fellow woodcutter, and they would then shift their 2 up to a 3. We would then swap. They would become the axe wielder, and they would roll the die. Turn will continue as that until somebody hits a 6 on their dice. So to kind of help speed it along a little bit, I just want to emulate a couple opportunities that can happen. If you roll doubles, say our double 6s here, you still get to choose your 6, level up that tier, and of course your opponent would also level up whatever tier die is associated with their 6, but you would get to keep the axe one more turn. That way you have a little bit more choice, a little bit more chance to choose how you level up. Once we get our tier die to 6, we get our option of pulling from the columns. If I get the yew and magic up, I can choose between either or. Well, I would usually recommend, of course, if you level up by the magic, pulling the magic. If that one's already taken, you, of course, since it's in the same tier, can still grab the U. Once you grab that, you would take the die, put it back to its starting tier number. So the U of magic would be a 1, a 2, or a 3, depending on the 3 different tiers. And then, of course, we would continue play as normal. Now then, say right afterwards, our other player gets the U in magic up to 6 as well. There's one more card left in that column, so of course they can grab it. The only issue is that causes deforestation. Deforestation still gives you the ability to take the card, of course, and add it to your collection, so you get those points. The negative of it, however, is that depending on the tier that you pull from, there's more negative effects. So in this example, we pulled from the U in magic tier, which means that we would have to lower one of our other die by 2. This one we would take down to a 3 and then to a 2, and the other one by a 1, taking this one down to a 1. If we were lucky enough that it was only a willow or maple, you would lower each of your die by 1, taking that to that, and that 4 to a 3. And if it's the oak and evergreen, you would only lower one die down by 1. Now then, over the course of play, you're still going to get your empty tier to 6, and that's okay. In fact, it's going to help you out a little bit. Once you get a tier die up to 6 and you cannot pull from a column, you can raise either of your other tiers up by 1, which can get you one step closer to getting another card. And if you have one at a 5, that of course gives you the ability to grab that card that turn instead. The end game is triggered once all of the tree cards have been acquired. So we'll say this player acquired those, this player has acquired these. Now then, the magic and the U are both worth 5, willow and maple both worth 3, evergreen and oak both worth 2. Meaning that they would each be tied with the same amount of points. So, the way that you settle that is to add up the values of your tier dice on your skill guide. So we have 11 points here, and we have 7 over here. So our player with the magic willow and oak is the superior woodcutter and has won the game.